Mhm. Hello, Nicola.
Hello, hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, thanks. Not bad. You had a nice week so far?
Yeah. Gosh, it's only Tuesday, isn't
You're a
it?
long way to go,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I was out last night at the Phoenix Arts Club where they were doing the premiere of a little short film I just did. So that was fun. And some of the fans turned up there, which was really sweet.
Lovely. Yeah.
I've got Marnie joining us. She's down here. She's just sitting on the sofa. She'll be very quiet.
Oh,
She
she's
did
more than welcome.
She did a whole series during COVID with me. Never made a sound. If Harvey was here, it would be impossible. Because he'll just like, "Meow. Why are you paying attention to someone but me?" He's very needy. So I've managed to set myself up in my sitting room. So I've got my fire and everything. I thought it might be a bit more fun because I usually just I have, the green screen thing behind the computer, but I just thought it might be nicer to be. Let me turn my phone off so that nothing comes.
Yeah, it's a nice
There we
environment to
go.
be in because when people do use the green screen, people kind of disappear occasionally. It doesn't always have
Yes. Oh, I just used it's actually a green screen.
full screen.
So it's a whole screen behind me, which, it can all look a bit grey and whatever. But yeah, I just thought, oh, I'll try something a bit more. So I've got the fireplace and hopefully no fireworks.
Hopefully. Yeah.
And how many have we got tonight?
Well, 45 have registered.
Cool.
But people are still in the process of logging on now. So we've got a few minutes, haven't we? So
Yeah,
let them do their thing.
exactly.
And then later on, of course, when it's edited, it'll be on YouTube as well for people to.
Perfect. So anyone who's missed it can at least join in then. That's great. What a fabulous idea. Thank you for getting in touch.
Oh, you're very welcome. I started this during COVID.
Yeah.
Just thinking it was just to keep myself sane, as most people
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
delved into something. And 5 years later, after speaking to a huge number of people from in front of the camera, but also behind the scenes. It's had a very unexpected life to it.
I know, I think people wanted me to keep going with the show that I was doing, but it's a lot of work, isn't it? Sorting something like this. And people
Oh,
just think, oh, you just sit there, turn it on, and off you go. And I'm like, no.
no, there's a lot of research and approaching people, and 1 out of 10 maybe are interested, and then
Yeah.
it's
And then
yeah.
all the liaising and organizing. I'm going to try and get a bit more light in this area. There you go. See if is that any better? This is on my new iPad and it just moves about. I've never had that before.
It's just tracking you.
It does
Oh yes, yeah, very
it's
swish.
very weird. I'm just like, stay still.
Uh,
Yeah. So is that something that's like, I guess it's built into these iPads. This is my Studio One for scripts.
yeah. I haven't got anything as fancy as that.
Yeah.
So I think we've just gone half seven. So I think we'll probably make a
Okay.
start and allow people
Cool.
to join us as they can. So well, thank you very much, Nicola, for wanting to speak to me about your career. It is extremely kind of you.
Oh, no problem.
So first question I had for you was I will weave in the audience questions as we go. But I just wanted to ask why you became an actress in the first place and how that kind of came about into your life.
Oh, right. So have we got everyone here?
I think we have, yeah. I
Oh,
think
right.
people might
Can I
sort of log
say
on as we
hello
go.
to people? Is that
Yeah.
sort of possible?
Oh, yeah, yes. Please do. They're all
Right.
listening.
Now, if I change my gallery, can I see people or is it
Uh,
doesn't
what,
work
what,
like that?
I did experiment with that a while ago,
Yes.
and so many different talking heads, it became
Hello.
quite
I can
quite
see
quite difficult. But
Tartan Mac.
um,
Hello. Hello, Claude. Tim, Christopher, Callum, Dan.
yeah.
Hey, brilliant. Hello, everyone. Thank
What,
you
what
for
I will
joining us.
what I will do is I will send you a copy of the chat so you can have a little
Ah,
look at any
wonderful.
comments that we don't get to.
Brilliant.
Um, So, well, thank you everybody in the audience for joining us as well. It's very, very nice
Yes.
of you to have you guys along. So yeah, just wanted to
Hi,
sort of,
Rachel. Is that
oh,
Rachel
hello.
from last night, Rachel?
Uh,
Is Rachel going to reply?
yeah, yeah. People will type
Yeah,
comments in as we go. Oh yes,
brilliant.
yeah, yeah.
Indeed it is. Thank you for being there last night, Rachel. That was a great evening.
Faithful viewer.
Thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to sort of say a
Oh yeah,
hello to
absolutely. Because I
everyone.
imagine when you go to conventions, a lot of people you do recognize. I would have thought
Yes,
after a while.
absolutely. Yeah. People become good friends and we're not alone tonight, everyone. We have okay, little sleeping one. Sleep.
Hello.
There's a little one sleeping on the
Yeah.
sofa.
I have
Yeah.
had a few cats and dogs and over the years behind guests walking around and stuff and things. So it's, but
Well,
I'm
she
a
won't make a sound unless she starts to snore.
oh well, that's fine. I love animals, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't bother me.
Hi, Marnie. Yeah. Thanks, Flora. Okay. Oh, she's gone back. She's going, oh, hello. I'm back. Wonderful.
Uh,
Yeah. So what got me into acting?
hmm.
Well, it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a ballerina and I wanted to be like Margot Fontaine, really. That was my desire. And I auditioned for all the main ballet schools when I was 10, which is sort of the first stage that you would audition. And I think my dad, particularly, didn't think that I would get into any of them. I'm thinking, did he not think I was very good? Oh, look, do you want to see something sweet? Because I'm at home. I can show you a picture of me when I was little, because it
Oh,
got
sorry.
made into a birthday card. 1 second, and I shall go
Oh,
and get it.
thank
Hold on.
you.
So I can share this with you guys, this little birthday present. So this birthday card, I don't know if you can see the bottom one. Look,
Oh yes,
that's
yeah.
little girl dancing. That
Oh,
was
that's it.
me. Uh, when I was young, that's what I wanted to do, was be a ballerina. And even when I suppose this is about 9 or 10. Look, I can't even sit in a chair without making a ballet pose.
Cool.
So that was what I wanted to do. And so I auditioned for the schools and I got into them all. I got into White Lodge, where I wanted to go, there in Richmond. And then my parents really didn't want me to go. So it was a really difficult time. I wanted to go. Um, and my dad, as advised by many of the school mistresses as well, was, oh, she's too bright to go to ballet school. That thing where only dumb people go into the arts. People who can't do anything else, which, couldn't be further from the truth, but that is often how it was perceived, particularly at that time. Because we would be talking just the beginning of the 70s, late 60s, 70s. So that was it. I didn't get to go. And I was gutted. I think I was a depressed child. I wasn't interested in anything because dance was my world. And I think to get me out of that, my mum suggested I joined an amateur dramatic society. Well, this would probably be a couple of years later, so I was 12 or 13. Except the fact that you had to be 18 to join this amateur dramatic society, because it was a very good one. It had, a lot of sort of semi-pros, teachers and things in it. And so I said to my mum, yes, but how can I go? I'm barely a teenager and you've got to be 18 to join. And my mum said, do you think you can act? And I said, yes. And she said, well, act 18. So, and I now think this kind of stood me in good stead for when I got to audition for Doctor Who, because in a way I was doing more acting when I was supposedly just being myself, because they were asking me, what GCSEs did you do? What A levels are you doing? I had made none of these decisions because I wasn't that old, but I did look very grown up for my age. So I got away with it, and we were auditioning for the musical Fiddler on the Roof. And I thought, well, I'll get to play the youngest daughter. And then the joke was, I got the role of the second youngest daughter. And the person, exactly, Gadget, the person who um, played the youngest daughter was, in fact, 21 years old. So that was a bit weird and fun, really. And I nearly got caught out because we used to go to the pub in rehearsals, and we go to the pub. And of course, in those days, if you were underage, you weren't supposed to go into a pub. And I thought, oh, this is going to be difficult. So I never ordered any alcohol or anything. I only ever had like fruit juice. But one person did come up to me in the cast who obviously knew one of my aunts, because we all lived in the same village and same sort of area within a couple of miles of each other. And she said, I know who you are, Nicola, but I'll keep your secret if you don't have a drink. And I was like, okay, I won't. And I wasn't going to anyway, but it was fun. And I was completely hooked from the first show. I only had about 6 lines, but I made those 6 lines last the whole story, because in Fiddler on the Roof, you're on stage most of the time as part of the family. And I lived through the whole journey, and I just loved it. And I thought, okay, this is what I can do with that feeling and emotion and desire to be on stage as a ballerina. Now I've just got to do it with words. But I think it was a good thing to learn to present the body of the character you're playing and their thoughts without dialogue, because I think it's very easy to rely on the dialogue to give you all the information. Whereas I love it when you can see someone's body is showing something and yet their words are showing something else, and you think, what's up with that person? That's when it's really interesting character acting, I think. When something, as you're watching something, you kind of go, oh, is this going to turn out to be this person's lying, or they're not who they say they are, or something like that. And I think with ballet, where I'd learnt to express with the body first, I think that kind of um, definitely helps in the acting field.
Hmm. Were you the first member of your family to go into the arts?
Yes, definitely. My mother trained as a hairdresser, and my father was an engineer, so and entrepreneur, really. I did have an uncle, my father's youngest brother, who did amateur dramatics, and he was very good in it. He was in several farces, and I went to see him in those. Um, but no, there was no one I knew to get any advice or help from, or um, and I realized what a huge difference that does make. Um, and I know when people have got, famous parents, they go, well, I've worked just as hard, and I'm sure they have, but just the information of where to go and what to do, and probably having your parents' agent take you on, all those things are just so incredibly helpful. And I was just like, I have no idea what to do, or even how to get to drama school. And we didn't have social media. So you're just literally asking questions into the wind, going, are there drama schools? How do, where do you find this information when you know nothing about anything? So yes, I was very much out on my own. But because I hadn't gone to ballet school, my parents had promised that they would support me with whatever I decided I wanted to do, having not been allowed to do that. So they were very supportive.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And did you find drama school was quite invaluable, I suppose, because of not having that, an acting background to fall back on? Did you find drama school actually helped you practically when you left?
I think the thing about drama school in my day and age was we studied for the theatre. And I think nowadays, I'm not sure what they do in drama school, but I know that some people come out and they just can't be heard on stage. And that seems bizarre because we spent, 3 years developing the voice. And one of our voice teachers said, if you can't stand at the back of the Palladium, which is the largest theatre in London, and do a stage whisper with your back to the audience, then you're not good enough.
Mm.
And that's quite a technical task. And I know nowadays there's this big emphasis on uh, being real, but none of it is real for a start. It's not real if you're doing a romantic bed scene and there's another 10 people in the room with you. There's nothing real about that. Unless well, you might have that kind of life, who knows? But with cameras, you could still have that life. But anyway, you guys know what I mean. And so what you're doing is portraying a situation and an emotion and a character journey truthfully. But that doesn't mean you have to do as they do, on in so much in cinema, which means, so I'll be talking to you like this and just saying, well, it's not really much of that, and maybe not even moving my eyebrows, and that real thing. That's fine, but there's very few shots you can use that in. Maybe this shot, but certainly not on stage. And I only a couple of weeks ago saw someone on stage playing the lead in a play, and I won't say any more than that, but they didn't even know how to play out to the audience.
Yeah.
They were talking, if you're the audience, they talk to people like this over here, and then they talk to people like this over here, and then that thing when they're going to point to something, they put this arm up, and you're like, whoa. um, so there's a lot to learn, and I was very grateful for 3 wonderful years at Webber Douglas with a lot of technique. And they have a point. If you're playing a show, and I've done a lot of touring, if, for example, in The Great Gatsby, and I played Daisy Buchanan, and you have to 8 times a week break down in floods of tears over, the smell of these shirts. And maybe one day you're just not feeling it because something's happened just before you've come on and you're not in that mood. You're quite the opposite. And you've got to you need the technique, because weirdly, the technique will take you there emotionally.
Right.
Because if you change how you breathe, because we breathe differently when we're crying. So if you actually change that breathing first, you end up putting yourself into that state, which unless you've learnt technique, you wouldn't know. And the point is, it's art, it's show. And I don't mean in any way that means it's got to be over the top or not truthful, because that's always what I'm looking to be in whatever character I'm playing. But I just think I was very grateful for all that stagecraft. But of course, the joke being, I came straight out of drama school and got a television job,
So how
for which
did
I had no preparation at all.
Mm. So did you have in mind, like some people do when they're in drama school, that you wanted to just be fit, or did you kind of want to kind of experience it all if you could?
I wanted to experience as much as I could, but I definitely thought that I would be getting a small part in a rep show and working my way up, and that maybe someone would spot me in a theatre show, and then maybe I'd get a chance to do, he went that way, and that my roles would sort of increase slowly. I did not think I'd come straight out of drama school and sign a 3-year contract for the BBC. But, magical and wonderful as that is. Um, but there was just one thing, and I think maybe this is, we're much more aware of it nowadays because people talk about it a lot more, about your mental attitude. And I remember coming out of drama school, and most of my drama school friends were really worried if they were ever going to work, whether they'd ever get a job, and how it was all going to work out. And I understand that. And I don't know why, but I just wasn't worried.
Mm.
Not in a kind of, oh, I'm going to be a star, but just in, oh, I'm going to work, you know. I didn't think it was going to be what it was, but I just thought, oh no, work will come, you know. And that, maybe that quiet belief somehow um, enabled things to happen. And I was spotted in the end, but in a drama school production, as opposed to in a theatre production after I'd left.
Hmm. So was that when you were spotted in the drama school? Does that have anything to do with Doctor Who? Was that a separate?
Yes, yes, it was completely linked because I used to write hundreds of letters um, and send them out to agents looking for an agent because I didn't have any contacts or anything like that. So for every show that we did in my final year, I would write to all the agents and send out a photo and say, we're doing this, and then this is our next show, and please come and see us. And in the last show that we did, we were doing a musical. We were doing No No Nanette, and that depressed me because I didn't want to be doing a musical. I wanted to be doing, because I'd always thought I wanted to be doing mostly Shakespearean acting and Chekhov and things like that, the classics. And so this agent came to see me, whose name was Terry Carney, and his father-in-law um, was William Hartnell. So he already had a Doctor Who connection. And we were doing the American score, and in his notes, and he showed me his notes, he wrote one American, wrote my name, and then just wrote everybody else's names that he liked. Um, and he just thought everyone else was doing an American accent and that I genuinely was American. So then only a few weeks later, he had this note come on, through to his desk from the BBC saying, we're looking for an American companion in Doctor Who. And he thought, oh, I know exactly who'd be right for that. The joke being that obviously he was able to see beyond this because the description was tall, blonde Californian. And I am none of these things. And yet he felt, yes, she'd be right to play this character. So he got me the audition.
And what was the audition process like? Was it straightforward? Did you have callbacks?
Oh, I had lots of callbacks. And it was complicated because they were only auditioning Americans or Canadians. And so once Terry Carney had understood that I wasn't American, he said, well, look, I just have a gut feeling about this. So I want you to go for it, but just do the whole audition exactly as you were in No No Nanette. And I said, without the songs. And just, we'll see how it goes. And I got 4 callbacks. They had people flying in and out, and it was just like crazy. And all the time, I had that total imposter syndrome, thinking someone's going to find out in a minute. And then I got the phone call from my agent to say it's down to 2 of you. So the problem being, I didn't have an equity card because I just left drama school, and you needed an equity card in those days to work. So they said, you've got 6 weeks if you can get one in 6 weeks, which is almost mission impossible because there were a few rep companies up and down the country who had them, but then they would have already cast that show that they would have been able to give someone. So I didn't have time to do that. So I bought the little equity leaflet on how to get your equity card. And I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go out and do it through a variety. So there was different ways you could enter. So I was looking for 0 weeks equity card via variety. So I wrote my own contracts and I went to pubs, clubs, kids' birthday parties, anything I could find. I just leafleted around and just said, would you like someone to come round and entertain your children, in this bar at midnight when everyone's drunk, just everything. And I got enough people saying yes, that I was able to hand my contracts in and get my equity card in order to get the job. And then that was great. And then John Nathan Turner, but I didn't know if for sure if I got it. I just knew I got the equity card. And then I got this, would you come in for another meeting? And I was like, oh no. Okay, I've run out of clothes to wear. I don't know what to do. You know, so I went in for another meeting, and it was just that John wanted to tell me face to face that I'd got the part, which was
Oh,
really
brilliant.
sweet. There wasn't a meeting, it was just he wanted to see my face, which was lovely.
I mean, I think John Nathan Turner was probably the most important Doctor Who figure, probably until Rusty Davis came along. And so, in terms of duration that you had the show,
Yeah.
what are your, do you have a particular favorite memory of John, or just something you'd like to share with everybody about him?
He's I mean, he was way ahead of his time in terms of thinking of the future of the show and the marketing and the publicity. He was very keen for us to do a lot of conventions and to promote the show. He did have a couple of weird ideas too, but then I guess if you're trying to think outside the box, that's going to happen. And he was trying to get me to endorse Perrier.
Makes sense, yeah.
And we were actually going to have a bottle, water in the scene in Vengeance on Varos, where everyone's thirsty. We were going to put Perrier. But I think historically, if you can check all these dates, because everyone will know how to check all these things, it was about that time that there was the Perrier scare, where there was some kind of poisoning with the Perrier bottles and something. I can't remember the details now, but that one got sidelined. And then he also wanted me to have like some kind of personal uh gadget. Like he said, Colin had the cat badges. So this started in the Two Doctors. I had this headband, right? So then he wanted me every time I went to America to wear a headband, like all the time. I mean, I know it was the 80s, but oh my goodness, it was ridiculous because he thought people were just going to give me headbands. But I said, but John, I don't want a lot of headbands. It's like I didn't really need that. I said, could my gimmick not be diamonds or something?
Would be better.
But it was just a joke. He had a good sense of humor and we used to laugh a lot. And but he was very hardworking and utterly dedicated to the show.
Yeah, I think he single-handedly kept it going for longer than it perhaps
Yeah.
would otherwise have done. When it came to developing the character of Perry, how much was it on the page? How much could you bring to it initially, and perhaps how that might have changed as the show went on?
Well, I felt there was a lot, to be honest, in Planet of Fire, if you were just reading between all the lines.
Mm.
Um, there's a well-educated American kid on holiday with her mother who we never see, who's frightfully busy. A stepfather who's also working there, so she's bored. She's an only child. Um, and that told me a lot to start with. And the fact that she wants to go off with these two Moroccan guys, because anything's got to be better than being stuck with my mother and Mrs. Van Geysingham or whoever she was with. And so I thought, oh, she wants adventure. She's looking for adventure and she's wanting to escape this somewhat claustrophobic world of her mother's and the slightly controlling world of her stepfather. I mean, the idea of leaving a kid just stuck on a boat so that she couldn't go off.
Mm.
It's quite extreme, really. Um, and so that sort of started everything for me. And then I looked at the story and thought, well, why does she want to stay? Why wouldn't she just say, right, well, that was fun, interesting, weird, strange, mind-boggling, scary. I'd like to go home now. Why did she say no? More. Because home had not been a good place. Home was not where she wanted to go to. So I think that gave me a lot to go with. And also in her first story, she shouts back at the master. She doesn't just scream at him. And then she tries to coax Chameleon out of this sort of weird version of her stepfather. So she's thinking on her feet and she's doing stuff and she's looking for adventure. And I'm thinking, this is a fun kid to play. I can relate to doing slightly crazy things and wanting the adventure. So I thought um, that told me a lot in that first story.
Hmm.
So that sort of gave me a great deal to work with, I think.
Hmm. And did having Fiona direct that story, having a female director, did that kind of help? Because she was, of course, initiating you into the world. Do you think that helped with the how the characters was initially presented?
I think it helped me personally just to feel I wasn't completely intimidated by some guy saying, right, do this, do that. I felt it was easier to approach Fiona and just say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And she was very approachable. So I think that was nice for me to have that. Um, but if you look at that story, it was an utterly crazy first week. So we've got Dallas Adams playing my stepfather, right? So he's the first palimony case ever in the world. And for anyone who doesn't know what a palimony case, it was like an alimony case for a gay couple, like, you know.
Hmm.
And then we've got Peter Wingard, who had been axed from the BBC for years and years and years and had come back. And we've got the Daily Star following us everywhere we go because they're writing a big article that was meant to be a big article on Peter's farewell because he was due to be leaving the show in the sort of the next story. And instead, they wrote an article called Who'd Be a Who Girl because they spent a week watching me go through, oh, right, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to, fall down this rock. Oh, never mind, I've lost a bit of leg. Never mind, I'll just go and drown. Oh, I'll just get rescued. Oh, I've got dropped on my coccyx. Oh, never mind, there's a German nudist. Oh, never mind. So they saw this crazy first week and thought they'd write this big spread on Who'd Be a Who Girl, which was great for me because it gave me a fabulous launch. Um, but it was a mad week. I mean, I went from drama school, knowing nothing, launched into this world in Lanzarote. Um, and I think I didn't know any swear words when I left. And when I came back, I sounded like a member of the crew.
We had a question from Claude. He wanted to
Yes,
ask you about the character study that you wrote for Perry.
yes. Well, to go alongside this, having just left drama school, um, I spoke to John and I said, should I do a character study? And John, bless him, he could have said, no, don't be ridiculous, or not necessary. But he was like, yes, yes, go ahead, Nicola. So I wrote all this stuff, excuse me, and I wrote something about Peter Davison's doctor.
Hmm.
I decided in my own mind that uh, my father, who'd obviously been gone for quite some time, he was dead, um, reminded me of the look of the Fifth Doctor. Because I wanted to just add another layer as to why she would trust this person and stay with them. And it just seemed like that was a real possibility. It didn't have to be said, it didn't have to be written into the script, but I thought, I'm going to play that. I'm going to carry that. And at that point, I hadn't read Caves of Androzani. I hadn't seen that. And I felt it really fed into um, what was about to come. Because there's a connection between the Fifth Doctor and Peri, which is quite extraordinary, really, because they've only just met, and yet they're literally both willing to lay down their lives for each other. So I put that in. And then I wrote loads of stuff. I wrote, I don't know, about 10 pages on who I thought Peri was, who her best friend was. She had a dog, she had this, what she loved to do, all of this stuff, the botany, all of this. I wrote loads and loads of stuff. And I handed it in like homework, like a little good school kid to John. I'm not sure if he ever read it. But he just said, "Oh, good, that's wonderful, darling. You just play all of that. Yes, we probably won't put it in the script, but you just play it." So I did. You know, I just sort of carried that stuff with me when I was playing the character.
And did you look at Doctor Who beforehand to sort of see what other companions had done, or were you just or how did you approach the legacy, I suppose, of the show at that point?
Well, I knew the show because I'd watched it as a kid. So I knew the show. I loved the show. I would have called myself a fan because I would watch it, but I hadn't seen Peter Davison because I was at drama school doing shows, in school all day. Um, so I hadn't seen Peter, so John sent me a couple of tapes to watch, and I was invited to come to the studio to watch Janet's sort of farewell story. So I went into the studio and watched that one,
Mm.
and met everyone. And yeah, so that was kind of my introduction into it. But I thought I was so blessed to have a job in Doctor Who, because most people out of drama school, you get a job and you say, "Oh, I'm playing Imogen from Cymbeline," and people go, "What?" And then you go, Shakespeare, and then you'd have to explain what your job is, and no one would know what you were doing, and all of that. So I felt that I could walk out and say to everyone, "I'm the next companion in Doctor Who," and everyone would know
Mm.
exactly what that was.
Mm.
So yes, that there wasn't a great deal that I needed to do, in that I did know the show, but obviously I wanted to get a feel for Peter's Doctor.
Mm. Yeah. You mentioned Peter Wingard. Do you have many memories of Peter?
Oh, he was great fun. I mean, I could write a book this thick based on the first week of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And it's just so much happened. He was a great character, full of stories, full of anecdotes, full of, naughty advice. And I was like, most of it was like over the top of my head. And it's only when I look back, I go, oh, I understand what he's talking about now. It's just crazy. But he wasn't aloof, he wasn't superior, he was very, a part of the group and a part of the team, and really good fun. um and I really think that everyone who was on that group also had a drinking capacity that was way beyond any normal human being. Because I couldn't keep up with these people at all. It was not possible, but it was incredible. It was so exciting because I was working, I was filming, and I loved the script and I loved the people I was working with. And then you'd finish work and you'd be driven back as the sun was setting, and we'd get back, it would be dark, you'd grab a bite to eat. And then everyone would meet in the bar, and then I'd go to the disco and I'd dance till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd fall into bed for an hour, if that. And then you just get in the coach at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you can do that when you're a kid. And then you go straight on to the next day. And it's like it was just phenomenal, very, very exciting. And I
Yeah.
sort of came back. I don't think my feet were on the ground. I was sort of like floating along.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. Do you remember Barbara Shelley?
Yes, I do. Yes. She was a darling. She gave me a little owl, and I still have it, a little owl ornament. And she was giving me lots of advice as a woman in the industry, and how difficult that can be. And she said, just she said I could contact her anytime and talk to her anytime if I, needed someone to give her advice, and about how to handle things. And she was just really sweet. I mean, I think everyone kind of, the disadvantage was everyone did treat me slightly like I was the child in the show. There was a slight element of that. But I very much felt like everyone was kind of, really putting their arm around me and saying, "Come here, kid, I'm going to show you about how this works." And come here, I'm going to show you how this works. And it was lovely that everyone was so, free with their knowledge and information and wisdom. And rather than, oh, there's an annoying kid on the set or something, it could have gone either way. So it was really lovely.
And that was about that time you did the photo shoot with Peter, the James Bond parody.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, our one day off. And some poor person had to scour around Lanzarote trying to find a white bikini, of which I would definitely say that was not my size. But still, it had to fit. So we did that, and that was funny, and strange. And I think I've got in most of the shoots, I've got my swimming goggles around the wrong way and various things. And then they got me to hook this thing on the side of the bikini for my flippers or something, and that just kept slowly pulling the bikini down. And I thought, this is the Daily Star. That's exactly what they want to happen. So yes, that was a fun thing to do, a crazy thing. But it was fun.
So that sort of publicity side of it, you quite enjoyed that aspect of it.
Well, I mean, at that point, it was just the Daily Star. So it wasn't, 20 or 30 photographers saying, "Oi, Nicola, over here, this way, love, this way, smile, leg up," which all of that is not so much fun.
Mm.
Whereas it was just them, and we got to know the two guys. One was doing the words and one was doing the photographs. So we got to know these two guys. Alistair, see, I can remember one name and can't remember the other guy's name, but um, it was that thing of, I think they were definitely befriending us to get the information. I mean, that's their job. Um, but everything felt fairly relaxed. I mean, there was so many shenanigans. We'd be here till past Christmas. So there was a lot going on, but I didn't mind. I mean, it was my day off, and everyone was like, "Oh, do you mind doing it on your day off?" And I'm like, "Do I mind doing a photo shoot dressed looking like a Bond girl? No, no, I don't mind. That'll do. That'll be fine. Thank you."
But yeah, I think most people would be happy
Yeah,
to do that
exactly.
sort of stuff, and especially
And
in Lanzarote, it's not like it's
yes,
in a cold studio
exactly.
in London
It's not
somewhere, is it?
February in
Mm.
Poole or somewhere. So yeah, it was fun. And the the kind of weird thing was that I thought this was all because they were saying that Peter Davison was like Bond, and I hadn't realized that obviously they'd made a decision to change the whole article to be about me.
Mm.
So, and then John Nathan Turner said, "Well, that's a first." He said, "I'd never had that before." That he'd often invite the press to come in and write a story about the Doctor, but he'd never had it turned around. And so, yeah, that was fun.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, but of course, when you did the Case of Adam Designy, of course, you had the costume from Planet of Fire, and of course, it wasn't nice. It's nice weather, was it? So that
Was not.
did that make you quite ill at the time?
It did. So we went October. We're filming in Lanzarote, so that's like 20 degrees. You know, very comfortable. 18 degrees, 75 degrees in old money, as I would say, or American money. And then we went to Poole in Dorset, and it was freezing. It was below freezing. And I'm wearing the same costume, except they've changed the bikini top to a bodice thing, but everything's made of thin cotton. I've got nothing on my legs at all but a pair of espadrilles. And I was supposed to be there filming, I think, for 6 days. I only made 4. So they had to do all of my stuff. They had to sort of juggle stuff around because I came down with pneumonia and I was losing my voice and I got frostbite. So it's like week 2. So within my first month of Doctor Who, I felt like they tried to kill me off.
Well, a bit of a false sense of security, isn't it? They start you off,
Yes.
they bring you back down to earth, sort of thing.
Yeah.
How did you find it with working with Peter in the respect that he knew he was leaving? Did you get the sense he was looking forward or was it a bit of anxiety about him leaving the role? How did it come across at the time?
I think he definitely wanted to go. I think there was that he'd made his mind up that this was his time, and then he did say, there was that thing where it was actually quite nice just having one companion instead of four, because I think he's said it in many interviews. It's actually really difficult because you run out of script
Mm.
trying to get four people to do one story. Inevitably, you have to go and lock two of them in a cupboard or something, and then it gets tricky. So I think he enjoyed the sort of one, and our stories. We had a really nice relationship. So I think there was an element of which he felt he could have. It would have been nice to have done a few more stories and then gone.
Mm. Yeah. So you were just chatting nicely in a way, and then of course
Yeah,
he bowed out. But you did get the chance to work with him, of course,
I
with the
did.
finish. So
Yeah.
that must have been nice to then develop the character that you didn't get a chance to back then.
And if he hadn't decided to go, well, then maybe Caves of Androzani would never have been written.
Mm. Yes, they
So
possibly.
I think having that show, possibly one of the best written Doctor Who scripts of all
Yeah.
time,
Mm.
um, for me to have had that opportunity, I wouldn't trade that for anything. So I'm really glad that I did get a chance to be in that.
And it's one of the best executed as well, isn't it? With
Yeah,
Graham Harper, who went on to, of
exactly.
course, do the modern Who. And so what made Graham Harper different to say some of the other directors that you worked with on the show?
Well, of course, I only had experience of one director.
Mm.
So and Fiona was very, she'd planned everything out. She was very methodical, and so I thought definitely this is how directors work. They obviously have to know, and of course they do. They've got to storyboard. They've got to know where they're going. They've got to know which each shot is, etc., etc. And then when we came to Graham, he was like this just bundle of energy and ideas and changing things as we go along with flexibility and freedom and all of that. So that was really exciting. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe everyone's going to be different. I don't know. Um, and I definitely liked that very hands-on approach where someone is, um, just there. In fact, I just released on Instagram something. There's a behind the scenes filming of The Wilds, which I did this horror short. And if you go, there's a lovely link to it. And the director there, there's a scene at the end where he says, I didn't realize I directed like this, but he's directing like Graham Harper, right in your face, going, oh, more blood, come on, more this. and and as an actor, that doesn't ruffle me. I just stay in the scene, take the information in, and just hopefully give them what they're asking for. Um, and I really enjoyed working with Graham because also he would just, because of the fact that we did on that last studio day, because we were running out of time, because he wanted to redo some things, because he thought, oh no, I want the camera to come around here now. I want the camera to come right into your face, Nicola. And he's there and the hand's coming. And he changed some of his shots, which meant we were then running a little behind time. So then we had to sort of condense things. And so it all just became very sort of improv and exciting and last second. And I really enjoyed that. I kind of reveled in that.
Because a lot of directors at the time would stay in the gallery a lot.
Yes.
So
In
to
fact, he
do
was the only one I ever saw on the floor.
it was
The
quite
only one.
revolutionary at the time to sort of
Yeah.
make that shift
Everyone
in.
was like, this is not your domain. Whereas
Mm.
actually, yes, it absolutely is the director's domain.
Yeah. Mm. And so apart from your cautions from a practical point of view in that episode giving you frostbite, were you happy with the cautions that you had in that first season?
Well, yes, I kind of was really, because everyone makes a thing about, oh, wow, what was it like wearing a bikini? And I was like, well, I'd have felt a bit silly trying to swim in a trouser suit.
Well,
You know,
yes.
it's like I was in Lanzarote.
Mm.
My character was on holiday. I wasn't wearing shorts. I was wearing, nice size shorts. I had comfortable espadrilles on. I didn't have ridiculous high heels, or it all seemed practical apart from the coldness of the weather.
Mm.
Um, and then we got to Twin Dilemma, where we changed the costume completely. And then I was sort of in a big costume, long costume originally. And I thought, oh, it's all just going to be different stuff for each story. I didn't think that what was going to happen was I was going to end up stuck in shorts and leotards for a fair bit of the second season.
Oh.
That I did not see coming.
So was that something that you tried to fight against, or were you kind of did you kind of accept it as part of the glamour side of the
I didn't
system?
try and fight against anything. To me, I was the newcomer. Um, People can be thrown off a show very easily. The fact that I had a 3-year contract, all of the renewal was on their side, not on mine.
Mm.
I wasn't allowed to walk, but they could fire me anytime they wanted.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't want to be causing a fuss. And also, I was kind of like, even if it wasn't my first choice, I was still in this, heavenly place of, I'm working on Doctor Who. How dare I complain about being in a leotard and a pair of shorts? I'm working in Doctor Who with all these fabulous actors and these fabulous creatives. Suck it up, Nicola, and do your job.
Mm.
That was what I was saying to myself. Um, I mean, John, in the end, knew that I was really kind of unhappy with that. And that's why when we got to the final season, he said, "What do you want?" And I was like, trousers and boots. Boots would have been good, but I had shoes for the first one. But I should have just said thermal socks. That would have helped as well. Thermal socks and boots. um, you know, uh, I think uh, I understood what he was doing and why. I think the thing was, the viewing figures were good, and everyone was writing about Peri, and suddenly it was like, oh, you're a sex symbol. So he wanted to keep that look going, whereas I'd just seen it as I'm just a kid on holiday with a tied shirt, and you see people on the beach all the time wearing a great deal less than Perry had on. You know? um, so it didn't feel like it was a sort of sexist way to dress me when I was in the first stories, because I'm a kid on holiday and I'm going swimming. It all felt very practical. It was just in the second season where I was like, and I'm wearing this because this is what you wear to chase monsters. This is what you wear to run away. This is, yeah.
There's a bit in Attack the Sideman when you're running across the streets of Colin, and you think this is on purpose for the dads watching. I think.
Yes. Somewhere along the line, there was that. But then I still thought I'd fared better than poor Louise Jameson stuck in that leather
Oh yes,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think she definitely got the worst deal of anyone.
Mm. So of course Colin came into the twin dilemma, and unlike Peter, because Peter, the first story that he did was not the one broadcast, so he had the benefit of kind of developing the character, whereas Colin was straight in from the get-go. How
Yeah.
did you find Colin found those first few weeks?
Um, I think we were all really nervous. I think, having spoken about it as well afterwards, both Colin and I were really, really nervous about wanting to do something really wonderful, um, and have a great, rapport, because I knew I had another 3 years to go. I'd only done 2 stories, so I had a 3-year contract. I knew that Colin wanted to be there for a while, so I thought, well, this is my doctor now, so this is who I'm going to be spending the majority of my time with. We've got to, we've got to have that chemistry and rapport and friendship and banter. So I think we were both nervous and we were both keen. And there I was in Twin Dilemma, which was a predominantly male story. There were hardly any women involved. There wasn't a female director, there wasn't female crew. Makeup was the most I was going to get to see. And the women who were there weren't in my scenes. So I wasn't rehearsing with them.
Mm.
So the whole of the studio felt a bit like a sort of men's locker room. It all got very sort of, Not that it smelt like that, but it just had that kind of, uh, male banter going on a lot.
Mm.
So I think I sort of retreated a little bit, just to sort of a bit more observational and going, okay, so how do I fit into this if this is the feel of how Colin likes to run the studio, you
Mm.
know. Um, but I think it's a testimony to both of us that we became the best of friends and worked really well together and got a great chemistry going. And it was so difficult to just have one story and then a break. That was just such a weird thing to
Mm.
do, not
And
just from our perspective, but also in terms of the viewing perspective.
yeah. Mm.
And especially as it was possibly the bravest storyline ever attempted in Doctor Who to do that. And then, you know, um, I think but ending on caves, that would have been difficult, but great. It would have felt like a strong season, and just having Colin pop up and say change, I'm very dramatic. He's very powerful and he's owning the place in that. Um, so I think that would have been very strong. So I think in an ideal world, it would have been nice to have had another story with Peter and then finished on that,
Mm.
and then start, you know, perfectly happy to start Twin the next year. But I think it was a tricky decision given the storyline that they'd chosen.
Mm.
If it had been a touchy-feely, sweet, gentle story, then maybe that would have worked. But the whole idea was that Sixth Doctor is nothing like Fifth Doctor.
Yeah.
That was the whole point.
Mm.
Um, and I think from in terms of the British fans, you know, it takes time for people to warm to the next Doctor. There's always that, oh, that was my favorite Doctor that's just gone, and now I need to. So you need that time to get to know the next Doctor. And if the only linking factor is the companion, and he's not very nice to her,
Yeah.
it kind of, where do you think the audience are going to put themselves, with that? So I think I loved the storyline and I loved the bravery of it and I loved the change and I loved all of that. But I think the timing of it was the thing that was sort of a miss, because in the States, they did not show Twin Dilemma at the end of that season.
Oh.
In America, it started with Twin Dilemma, and then the rest, they put that on the front of all of the rest of the Collins stuff.
Mm.
So even though they were like, oh, who is this Doctor? What's going on? They immediately then had the next story and the next and the next. They didn't have this big hiatus in which, everyone could get into a right state about it in between while you've got the break between filming.
Mm.
Um, so, and in America, they had a very different response to the Sixth Doctor than they did over here. And I think that's entirely due to how they positioned the episodes.
And I think because Caves was such a strong story, anything that
Mm.
followed was always going to pale a bit in comparison. And when Twin Dilemma becomes quite low on people's favourites, it might be because of that unfair comparison of
I
the
think it's that.
two.
I think it is juxtaposition. I
Mm.
think when I read it as a story, I actually thought it was quite good.
I
There's
watched it recently and I couldn't see what was wrong with it. I thought it was a very, very strong story. Yeah.
and I do have young fans now I mean, one particular young man who, I love it. He ran in to see me, and it felt like he just left his television set the way he ran in. He just went, "I've just binge watched you." He was just like out of breath, and I thought that was hysterical because it's not something that I could conceive of at the time when we were filming it. Just
Mm.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And so lots of people who've joined the watching audience of the Sixth Doctor and Peri, decades later, they don't feel badly about Twin Dilemma either, because
Mm.
they can just go straight through. And I think, was it filmed in the most dramatic way? No, I read a much more dramatic script.
Mm.
I think maybe had Graham Harper directed that, it might have felt closer to Caves.
Yes.
But it was directed in a very sort of static way. And I think after Caves, that contrast is more difficult.
Mm.
But I don't think, certainly I've seen a few that I would say are not as good as
Mm.
Twin Dilemma. But that's, everyone's entitled to their personal opinion on absolutely everything. But I did think that poor old Twin did suffer from where it happened in the timeline.
And I think also coming at the end of the season where the crew is quite tired, maybe the budget has been spent on
Oh,
other
the
things.
budget.
That doesn't
Yes.
help either, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah. The budget was absolutely tiny. And that would happen. But by the time you got to that, you'd run out.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I wasn't au fait with all the stuff that was happening in terms of money, but it definitely felt like there was not the same amount of money as we'd had earlier.
Mm. Do you remember actor Maurice Denham from the episode?
Yes, yes. He was absolutely lovely. He lived not very far away from me. And we used to meet up and go to Holland Park and go on a walk and a chat. And he used to like conducting records and things like that. And we did a bit of that together.
Very nice.
Yeah. Especially as 'cause, he was on his own and his wife had passed away, so he was just down the road, and so I'd say to him, "Oh, do you fancy going to poison the pigeons in the park?" And he'd go, "Oh, looks like the perfect weather for pigeon poisoning," and we'd go out and we'd just take some sandwiches and feed the pigeons and stuff like that. And he was a sweetie, really lovely.
So when it came to next season, the format changes and it's now 45 minutes an episode. Did that change much in terms of how it was shot, and did you prefer that as a format or?
I think it's fun that you can get more done because always when you've got just, the 30 minutes, it's really only 25 in which for the story to get going. Um, and then you've got to start reaching for the end of that episode. So it's almost like the story kind of changes dynamic at the end of every episode because you've got to reach that end of episode acting peak to make people tune into next week. So I enjoyed the fact that we had a longer stint. So I felt quite lucky really that we got a chance to do the 45-minute ones because I think it makes a lot of those stories much stronger for having that time slot.
Hmm. Moving on to Vengeance of Argos, of course, we have the wonderful Syl that comes
Oh
back
yes.
in Trial of the Time Lord. And of course, we lost
Nabil.
Nabil.
Nabil,
Nabil.
yeah.
Yeah. Would you I know I think you also worked with him on Big Finish, I think. So
Yeah.
perhaps have a little talk about what he brought to the episode and what he was like as an actor.
Oh, well, he made Syl, didn't he? I mean,
Mm.
that could have been a dreadful character. But
Yes.
in the end, that definitely Syl became Peri's nemesis. And I think he became one of the most memorable new villains in the whole of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to have seen him return in New Who because I think he was just
Would have been good. Yeah.
fabulous, fabulous. Um, but perfectly understand they want to do their own villains and stuff. But I just loved him. What he brought to it was this character actor brilliance. I mean, creating that sound,
Yeah.
thinking of that, um, and just he played the comedy too. He was a funny character. How he found Perry really ugly, and he wanted to make all this money, and his little minnows, and his careful, and his just sort of and his sycophantic manner to anyone who might, be able to help him. And oh, it's just brilliant. It was like something, it could have been out of Yes Minister in space. It was absolutely superb. And he was a wonderful character actor. And he did a lot for disabled actors, showing that, we need to be using more people and thinking outside of the box, and not just doing, just obvious casting. And he had his own theatre company, which, to promote work for disabled artists. He was just an extraordinary human being, and a great asset to Doctor Who. We were very, very lucky to have him.
Oh yeah, yeah. He always seems like a wonderful human being, as you say when you see him in interviews and everything. And I think all Doctor Who fans were, very sorry to hear that
Yeah,
he left us.
absolutely. And I had just finished recording the book, the BBC book, which is coming out. I think it's reviewed in Doctor Who magazine, in which I was playing Syl.
Oh,
And so it just felt like, oh, I don't want anyone to think that, any of this was disrespectful, because everything was recorded long before he passed away. But I was very sad, because I was hoping we could put two Sills in a studio. And I could do one, he could do
yeah, it'd be
another.
nice. Yeah.
Syl and his personal friend, Will, or something. But yeah, sadly, we will not get to do that.
And you have some lovely actors in Mark the Rani, of course, Kate O'Mara.
Yes.
Do you remember what Kate was like to work with?
Oh, I was totally in awe of working with Kate, because I knew her from so many things. And I would say that both Kate O'Mara and Jacqueline Pearce had an energy about them that was very much this grand leading lady commanding the room. So I would sit, we had terrible weather when we were filming Mark of the Runny, terrible weather, just rained the whole time. So we spent a lot of time that first week when we were up in Ironbridge, just sitting in the makeup caravan, because that was the only place that had any seats. We didn't have Winnebagos of our own or anything glamorous like that. So they would sit in the makeup seats, Kate and Colin, and I would just sit on the floor in the corner listening to them chat, because I was like, this is just gold. This is acting gold. Hearing these two guys talk about their lives, their careers, their jobs. It was wonderful. And slowly, Kate, sort of brought me in and started talking to me, and teaching me the power of peanut butter, because that was the thing that she really loved to eat. And I was like, there she was. She'd always have her own little brown whole wheat rolls stuffed full of peanut butter, and she rarely ate any of the food that was the crew food, or everyone's food. Um, and yes, eventually we sort of became quite close much later, and she lived not far away from where I live now. But lovely lady.
And you have the wonderful Anthony Ainley back as the master, and
Yes,
they bounce off each other very well, I think.
they
And
do. Yeah, lovely having two masters in a way,
mm,
two Time Lords, well, three altogether. And so,
mm,
and it was just nice to have, the female Time Lord, and not
yeah,
just have the master. I mean, in a way, Kate O'Mara was the first kind of drop in the ocean which goes, ooh, female doctor. That could be on a horizon if you've got a female Time Lord. And of course, you've got, Romana and all that, of course, but this was a nemesis now. This was someone coming in as an equal to the Doctor to fight. So I think that, to me, when I look back now, is that sort of first, oh, look, we could have someone in who could really take control of the TARDIS.
mm, yeah. And what was Anthony like to work with?
Oh, he was lovely to me. I know that lots of people said, oh, he was very difficult and stuff, but he was absolutely charming to me.
Mm,
And my funny story with Anthony, in that first story on Planet of Fire, apart from the fact that he would talk cricket to me for ages, and I'd say, I'm so sorry, I just have no interest or knowledge of cricket. And he said, well, you'll have to come and learn. I was like, okay. That he took me aside at one point, so at the end of the first few days, and because he could see everyone was very kindly taking me under their wing. And he said, Nicola, probably everyone's giving you lots of advice. And I was like, yes, yes, they are. And he went, just so long as you know, you don't have to take any of it. It was kind of like, and I can't remember the exact words he said now. Sometimes I remember them, sometimes I don't. But it was just like, don't worry about any of it. Just
Mm.
don't stress about it all. Don't worry about it. You know, what you're doing is lovely. Just be yourself and don't stress about it, which was nice because it
Yeah.
did kind of then take that pressure off of, oh, I've got to watch this and I've got to watch that and I've got to do that. I thought, yeah, I'm still going to do all that, but I can do it in a slightly more chilled fashion.
Mm. I think it's very important, isn't it,
Yeah.
in a lesson to learn to not worry too much about, obviously listen to people, but
Yeah.
go
Listen
your
and
own
learn.
way, I think.
Yeah.
Um, the only person I wanted to mention from that story was Terence Alexander.
Yes.
Was he nice to work with?
Oh, he was wonderful. And of course, I was a huge fan of his in Bergerac and everything.
Mhm.
Um, Yes, he was great fun. He had a great sense of humor about, you know, where we were and the dogs and everything that we had to deal with and the location. And of course, we all got to know each other a little bit better because we were filming in Ironbridge. So we were all staying in a hotel together.
Mm.
And so it meant we would all have dinner together. Whereas sometimes when you're filming, you're just in the studio and everyone goes home and you don't see as much of each other. We all got to see each other quite a bit more. Yes, he was very funny. Lovely voice, great
Yes.
voice.
Mm.
Love that, and wonderful casting. I mean, all the shows were so well cast, such great cast. I just felt I such a rich group of actors that I got to work with within, you know, just a few months of being there. I was like, wow, this would take 20 years in rep.
Mhm. Mm. I think that's why the stories last, like any classic TV, is because they've really good character actors, strong
Yeah,
performances, directors. Everyone's at the top of their game, aren't they, on shows
yeah,
like these?
absolutely.
Um, and to round off the season Revelation of the Daleks, where you have a much more appropriate outfit than you did in
I've got so many
Case.
layers on. Look, I'm terrible. I think I've let my fire go down. But I'm sitting here in a modern home with incredible insulation and gas windows, and I'm sitting next to my fireplace,
Mm.
and I'm wearing a thick woolly jumper, a thermal vest, you know, and it's not that cold. But that's who I am.
Mm.
And so the idea of always being cold, which I was pretty predominantly, apart from my two sunny locations. Um, so when I saw this blue cloak and we had these cloaks for the morning, I was like, oh, yes, thank you. And it was made of wool, not some, you know, flimsy napkin, you know, which some of my clothes did feel like they were made out of the thinnest cotton in the world. So I then said, can I wear more clothes underneath? And they went, yeah, knock yourself out. So I really did. I mean, when I look at it now and I think, oh, I did not have the vanity to care about how large I looked when I climbed up that wall. And I'm sitting on there. I look like Humpty Dumpty. I had two thermal vests, two sort of normal sized jumpers, a huge chunky jumper, um, an extra wrist thing. I mean, I just put I had the thickest, like these are. I've got these leggings on now that have got like a fur lining in them. I've always got these thick, warm things on. And I put like a thin pair and a thick pair of thermal long johns. And then I had the boots. And I was like, I had so many layers on. It was quite hard to move. But I didn't care. I was trying to stay remotely warm. So I was very, very grateful for that costume. But I do think it looks a bit funny because when you look at the filming outside, it looks like what happened to her because I suddenly slimmed down to a different size when I'm indoors. It's like, what's happened? But I was very grateful for that cloak.
Mm. I think Revelations probably was my favorite story as a kid, which I suppose is my bit strange considering it's all about death and sort of very very morbid, very dark, but also a lot of comedy in the
A
story
lot
as
of
well.
comedy and visually so rich.
Mm,
I think, you've got the snow, you've got the TARDIS, you've got the blue, you've got this strange place they're going to. What is in here? You've got a crazy, colorful DJ. You've got it's a mad world. So I
mm,
think, I can get why that would be someone's favorite. Because it's kind of weirdly eccentric. And then suddenly the dark bit. Oh my goodness, this is harvesting human beings, and this is the Daleks. And I loved that. I thought it was great. And it was one of those sort of, I'll say, because Graham doesn't remember this. I remember I had this conversation with Graham, and I said, Graham, do you remember that you stayed up late? Because Colin and I were doing Panto at the same time. So we drove from the Panto at Southampton to Petersfield to the hotel, and Graham had stayed up late and gave us the new sides, the new script for the morning, and just a few changes and stuff like that. And I sat up late having a cup of tea with Graham, and I said, so, how do you think it's going to go tomorrow? And he said, oh, I think it's going to be great. He said, all we need now is snow. And the forecast was not snow.
mm.
And I said, yes, yes, snow. And we went to bed going, snow. And then we woke up to snow. It was like, whoa, okay, now we've got to get there. And it was so much more difficult. Everything was more difficult. My hair got fried because it was like icicles, and they put a hair thing on it. And I said, is that my hair? There was this fizzling sound, and a piece of hair fell off because it was just, but I think despite how hard it was, I think the magic is there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm sure some wonderful fan with a lot of knowledge would know how many Doctor Who stories were filmed in snow.
I
There's
mean,
a
in real snow
question
as
for
well.
someone to
Probably very few in real
research.
snow, I would have
Yeah,
thought. Because I think that's so much about the atmospherics of that first episode is because of the weather, and
yeah.
that's
Got the
partly, I think, why it's
mist
such a
over the
classic.
pond and the
Mm,
hand coming
yeah,
up. You
yeah,
know, 12 probably, someone said.
yeah, certainly. I think quite few. Yeah. I must mention the wonderful Clive Swift because he's such
Oh, yeah.
has some wonderful scenes together.
He was fantastic. And I loved the whole little sort of the moving toupee and the
Mm,
thing. It was pure comedy, pure character acting, and yet really quite a tragic and nasty. He had all these different sides to him. He
mm,
was a tragic character. He had a bit of nastiness to him too. And it was just it was a what was wonderful is he made it such a well-rounded, multi-dimensional character just from his approach. And the look was fantastic. You've just got to salute wardrobe and makeup for what a fantastic job they did creating uh his character. Joe Bell, was it?
yeah,
Joe Bell?
Turbo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, he was great to work with. A lot of laughs.
of course, the wonderful William Gaunt as well is a
Yes.
very good, a man of honor, but one that had kind of fallen, and again, a complex character as well.
Yeah, complex and comedic.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what I loved about this script is you had a lot of got a lot of fighting, a lot of darkness, and yet there's so much comedy. Him and
Yeah.
his sidekick, I just, you watch the two of them and laugh. And of course, I definitely had a bit of a crush on Bill Gaunt because I would just remember him, from all the shows where I used to have crushes on him when I was a young girl.
Mhm.
So it was like, wow, it was a real sort of one of those tick box exercises to get to work with him.
Mm. And Claude said, of course, Alexei Sale as well,
Yes,
the wonderful DJ.
yes, that was amazing. And he's quite a sort of improviser, obviously, with all the comedy that he writes and this, that, and the other. And Graham has said to me, Nicola, I have no idea what he's going to do on the day, but I know you'll just go with the flow. And so that was great that Graham had only worked with me once, but he was like completely confident because when he asked to cast Alexei, I believe, and John was unsure. And Graham had said, look, I know Alexei can like do lots of different things. He can be a bit he's an unknown quantity as to what he's going to do. But he said, but I also know that Nicola can just go with it. Whatever energy he produces, she'll match and go with the scene. And that was just based on us working together in Cave. So that was a really nice feeling that he, trusted me to be able to do that. And we ended up with quite a sentimental scene, really.
Mm.
Um, and the weird thing is that you wouldn't be aware of when you watch it is that we didn't know what music was playing. So the music's put on afterwards. We
Mm.
weren't playing to the music. We were just playing our scene.
Mm.
So very interesting.
Mm. I think why the story is so good. It's very dark, but it's also comedic, which is kind of what life is like, isn't it? Very
Yes,
dark with some humorous moments in between, you know.
yes. And then
Mm.
some moments of, pathos and, you know, she's definitely hearing his voice having a bit of a homesick moment. And I like that because then it foreshadows what's going to happen.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed that story. I thought it was a really good story, very powerful.
Were you always very good at accents, or was it just the American one that you were?
I mean, I had a lot of practice with the American because my best friend in school was American. My husband was American. So obviously I'd spent time with his family. Um, but I think it's the music ear. Musicality is what it's mostly about.
Mm.
Um, for all of my auditions, I did character voices. I did, RP for the Shakespeare, but all the others were um, several of them I did American. Uh, one of them I did a Yorkshire accent because different schools want different things. So, um, but yeah, I felt being a chameleon was the thing I really wanted to do. And I really, if someone had said, do you want to be a leading lady or a character actor? I would have said character actor. But then, as JNT kept saying to me, she said, but you can't. Look at you. You're a leading lady. And I was like, okay. But I think that in a way, what was so cool about Doctor Who was that right at the end, jumping to the last story, is I got to be a character actor
Mm.
when I get to have the mind transplant
Mm.
and be completely different.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, everything's going very well at this point. So we've got a very, very good story. Um, Colin says we're going to Blackpool at the end of the episode, which
Yeah.
of course then gets cut.
Uh,
And as far as I'm aware, that footage doesn't exist. Was it, given it we were on quite such a high, and it's a very good season, was
yeah,
the hiatus quite a shock? I would have thought.
massive.
Massive, yeah.
And never made any logical sense. I do
Mm.
feel some frustration that with all the interviews I've seen with Michael Grade, everyone is so deferent to him, and I just feel like nobody really nails him the way that I would,
Mm.
because there's all this viewing figures. The viewing figures were great.
Mm.
We hadn't got terrible viewing figures. The violence was no more so than, I mean, yes, there was some violence, but this was also what was happening on television.
Yeah.
We were opposite the A Team, which I would say was a far more dangerous violence, where you've got machine guns, people just dropping to the ground, but there weren't really any consequences for
Mm.
that. Whereas we thought and had consequences. Oh, this person's what's happening now? How do we sort this? How do we take care of this person? There was so I think it was just one of those things, Mary Whitehouse was bored and tuned in at the wrong moment and
Mm.
decides that, oh, I'm going to get a bee on my bonnet about that. And
Yeah.
it was just unfortunate timing. And I think if you look at it, the season before, I think Caves was filmed in a very violent manner because it was filmed in a very, in a filmic way, very dramatic way. But aren't those the shows we love? These are
Yep.
the shows we tune into.
Mm,
You don't tune into Doctor Who to say, I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be frightened. I don't want my imagination stretched. I don't want to think, oh my goodness, what would I do in this situation? That is the absolute definition of this show. Watch it and have nightmares. That's
mm,
what I used to do. So why were we trying to change that suddenly and say, oh no, Doctor Who has to not be that? That just seemed madness.
mm,
And we'd had some fabulous stories. We'd had some great artists. And the weirdest thing of all is everybody had been paid. Everybody had been commissioned. The writers had been commissioned. I'd signed my contract. Everybody had to be paid. So basically, the BBC were just going to throw that money away. So that makes no sense at all. So why would you do that? If you turn up and you say, as he did, as Michael Grove said, I don't like science fiction, so I don't want to make science fiction programs, fine. We would finish that series because you've paid for it.
Well, yes, he didn't inherit his father's ability of money, I don't think. But
No, I think, well, that's the trouble when it's you've got the money already.
possibly,
It's
yeah,
the
that's what
first
it
that
was.
always isn't it the
Mm,
third generation or the second generation that destroys the family business? Isn't that the
yes.
way it always goes?
Mm,
So
mm,
yes,
yeah.
it just seems silly that why would you not? And we had offer from the States for money, and there was all these things going on that we were going to hopefully film um, abroad. We were going to do another thing in America. So there were all these wonderful things that were going to happen, and boom, gone. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, and understandably, that's why you end up with, you know, um, the the super uber fans like Ian Levine coming up with the Doctor in Distress, and as embarrassing as it was to us, the credit goes to all the fans who said, well, we just want to do something
it was
because this
it was
is
a nice thing, wasn't it?
madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it made
Mm,
us feel very loved because obviously, we are sensitive souled, us artists. we we just we felt gutted that this had happened, and it was lovely to feel that the fans were gutted too, and that
mm,
everyone didn't go, oh well, because that could have happened.
yeah.
That could have happened,
Yeah.
but it didn't. And I think Michael Grade had a bit of a rude awakening, and as to how the fans really felt about that. And I mean,
Yeah.
as I say, I'm not a fan of quiz shows. I'm not a fan of uh, sports particularly. I would not, but I wouldn't axe match of the day because I don't like
Mm,
football.
yes.
Because I'm not selfish.
It does seem that it was caught up in the politics rather than anything to do with the show. And I know when Russell T Davies brought the show back in 2005, in his days in 2004 when they were kind of putting it together, he was at one point asked if he could shut it down, and he said, "Well, no, we're almost ready to start filming." There was kind of this anti-Doctor Who movement.
Yeah.
It's always, I think, kind of existed for decades, and you kind of think, well. Why is that? But
Yes, I put it down to jealousy. I'm just saying this now. I've never said it
probably.
before, but there is that thing, isn't there? When people have something that
Mm,
they love and they enjoy, and other people don't understand it, it's a show that creates incredible love around it, love
mm,
and passion and connection, because it's about connection and about awareness and thinking, and I just think if you don't get it, you don't get it.
yeah,
And then you're on the outside. And when you're on the outside, you just like, it's annoying. And I don't want our budget to go in that. But Doctor Who budget was tiny
mm,
compared to other shows and made the BBC a fortune.
it
There
did. Yeah.
was no logical reason to do it. And you
No.
can say, I don't like science fiction. Well, my answer is, well, you're the Director General. Suck it up. It's something the British do really well. And
Yeah.
we're really good at science fiction as novelists, as screenwriters, as actors. And we had the most wonderful special effects team,
Mm.
incredible people working with tiny budgets, creating incredible things. Why would you not just celebrate that?
Mm.
It seems it's a complete anathema to me. I can't work it out. But I think there was also some personal stuff going on there too, which
Yeah.
we're sort of a party to now.
Mm.
A lot of it was personal,
Yeah.
um, which also shouldn't have anything to do with the show. Because the
Yeah.
job of the BBC is to provide entertainment for the people who are paying the license. And the people paying the license were saying, we want Doctor Who. So,
Mm.
you
That's
know,
right. And I think that Fiona pointed out that I think it was Fiona. Oh no, sorry, it was Rachel pointed out. Sorry,
mm,
that Doctor in Distress did raise a lot of money for charity. So
yes,
whether people like it or not, it did go to
yeah.
a good cause.
And that's something that, for me, as a legacy continues because I am able to raise money for charity because I was in Doctor Who,
Mm. Yeah.
which I consider to be a great privilege to be able to raise money for the charities that I work with and are concerned with.
Mm.
And that,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that, as are my charities.
Mm. And I thought it must have been quite an enjoyable thing as well to do that song. It must have been
Oh,
a
I
fun
was
thing to
utterly
make.
embarrassed. I was so embarrassed because I was so nervous. I think sing slightly flat through the whole thing, really. I just was so nervous. I mean, there with all these huge stars, I was overwhelmed.
Mm. I must admit, I'm always a bit suspicious if people don't like science fiction. It's a bit like not liking cats or dogs. You think, well,
Yeah, people who don't like animals, it's the
hmm,
same sign. I mean,
yeah,
so basically, and I do have that. I've had that. I had that with one set of in-laws. It was so pompous, very pompous academics. But they were like, oh, well, but they didn't sound like that. They were, because they were from the South. They said, oh, we don't have anything to do with science fiction, you know. And I was like, oh, so not really into imagination then.
yeah.
It's
Well,
kind of my thinking, it's like, and isn't it interesting how so many, I was just having this conversation, so many wonderful mainstream writers who've done mainstream big dramas are now, their second thing is going into
mm,
science fiction.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so, it's not the bottom of the rung, it's right up there for me. And those were the books that I was reading when I was in my teens,
mm,
you know, Arthur C. Clarke, George Asimov, it was like Isaac Asimov. And I was just, those are the books that I loved. I loved ballet stories, ballet annuals, and science fiction.
mm. Well, I remember when I was in secondary school, I had a Doctor Who book that I was reading in the library that my mum got me, and my English teacher walked by and didn't say anything particularly to me, but there was a parents' evening that night. And he said to my mum, "Well, you shouldn't be reading, you know, Doctor Who or sci-fi and stuff." And mum pointed out, "Well, the most important thing is he's reading."
Yes,
And of course, it's
exactly.
just, perhaps you can suggest he also reads this and that, but she was
Yeah.
sort of defending it, and
Yeah. It's
you
just a
know,
snobbery. It's a
yeah,
terrible
it's just a bit
snobbery.
snobbery, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did the hiatus in any way change your desire would you have stayed longer, do you think, if the show hadn't had that break, or were you always kind of thinking in your mind that you want to go at a certain point?
Well, I had the 3-year contract, so I would have done um, what I did plus another year.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I did the full season with Colin. I would have done another full season with Colin, and then I would have done a half season
Hmm.
and disappeared during that season. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I feel we were deprived of a lot of that journey that we were hoping to make together. So, yeah.
Well, I think when Colin was told that he was had to go, he said, "Well, I had, contract for 3 seasons," and they said, "Well, no, 3 years really." So they counted the years, not the
Mm.
seasons, which I think was quite, well, devastating really for them to do that. Um, the only other thing I wanted to mention about the previous season, it was Patrick Troughton and
Mm.
Fraser Hines. What was it like to have them into the mix?
Well, I'm sorry, I've just got some weird. I think I've swallowed a hair or something. Hold on. I'm just going to have a bit of ginger tea. See, it's genuinely live. It's
Hmm.
me, and it's not an avatar. It's not AI. So,
Absolutely.
um, what was wonderful about that was I felt like I'd won the lottery when I got Doctor Who. I felt it was doubly brilliant that I was playing someone who wasn't really like me, that I was playing a character. So I thought when I get out and everyone discovers that I'm not American, I'm going to have this huge career because, wow, she's so different. And I thought this would be a plus. It wasn't. But then I discovered I was going to have a regeneration. And I was like, wow, that's amazing because, not everyone gets to have a regeneration. So I was like, I get to be there during a regeneration. That's amazing. And as an aside, I walked into the Momi Museum once, and there it was. There was the regeneration on a screen, just playing all the time. And I was like, wow, I'm actually in a museum now. And then the next bonus came because I thought, oh, I'm going to get to work with another doctor. So I was like, I get to work with three doctors and another classic companion and have a regeneration. And I thought, wow, I was just feeling very, thank you. I felt that that was just, could it get any better? Which I think was part of that whole thing of having felt like we had such this amazing season that when the hiatus came, it really was hard to take because I just thought, wow, I just had everything. And then it was like the carpet was just, the rug was taken out.
Mhm.
But it was really good. Patrick and I got on very well. Colin and Fraser turned into some clown double act, and we all had a hoot. We had a wonderful time.
Well, I know that Fraser thought at the time, but didn't express it that he wanted to stay on with the on the TARDIS, and I think that would have been very interesting
Yeah,
to have.
exactly. I think it's nice to just sort of dip in and out of those. Though I have to say, I think it does work best when you've just got a doctor and one companion.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
think it's the strongest.
Mm.
And if you want to pop someone in, it's almost like a guest star every week can become like a second companion. But I think it's stronger when it's just the one rather than when you start getting too many. I think it sort of weakens the stories. It
Oh,
weakens the relationship as well because the doctor's just got so many people to think about. And you want to follow the story. I think possibly easier when you've got the longer 45-minute ones. But if you've only got 20 minutes of drama time and then 5 minutes of top and tail,
mm,
that's really hard to deal with like two, three, four different companions, plus the guest stars, plus the story.
mm. And of course, when the show does come back, it's the same episode count as before, but half the duration. So
Yes.
that of course makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
There was one theatre credit I wanted to talk about briefly.
Hmm.
Killing Jessica.
Yes.
At Savoy Theatre, and that was with Patrick McNee.
Yes.
As a big Patrick McNee fan, I just wanted to ask you about what it was like to work with him on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, huge Patrick McNee fan myself too. So, yes, Patrick McNee and David Langton were the two big stars. So, for anyone who's not entirely sure, David Langton played the sort of the father figure in Upstairs, Downstairs for many years. So both, big names. And this was kind of my first theatre role after Doctor Who. So I went straight from Doctor Who into the West End for a year, playing an American. And this was a play written by Leveson and Link, who wrote Columbo. And they did turn it into a film eventually. And I think Karen Black played my part. And it was wonderful. I got to work with Brian Forbes, who was also my mother's like heartthrob. So she had his autograph. So that was fun. And we were at the Savoy. So, I mean, what's not to love about playing the Savoy? And it was just wonderful working with him. He used to call me Little Mushroom because his wife was Polish, and that was his term of affection for his wife. Because in Polish, Zib or Zibek, Little Mushroom is an affectionate term. So he used to just call me Little Mushroom. And I said, "Am I growing in the dark?" and we got on very well. And he just had reached that age and stage where he was finding it really difficult to remember all the lines. So it was a difficult time for him, and I think from that point on, he probably didn't do much theatre afterwards. He had this line that he used to forget every night. So the joke was, in the end, I wrote a line that meant I could give him his line
Ah, right.
because he was supposed to question me because he was sort of, although he wasn't a policeman, he was an author who was trying to get to the bottom of this murder. So he was asking questions to try and find what had happened to his leading lady actress who was murdered. And so he was due at this point to ask me a question about what I'd been up to. And there'd always be this just moment where, as a cast, we were waiting for him to say the line, and he didn't. And so then I used to just turn to him and I used to say, "Hey, I bet you're dying to know what I've been up to." And then he'd go, "Yes, yes."
Mm.
So it was fun. So he was always very nice to me because his life depended on me saying that line.
I have heard that Patrick when he was quite eccentric. Would you say that was fair with or
Um, I don't know really. I mean, maybe I didn't know him that well. I mean, I was still very much considered to be, the kid in the show,
Hmm.
um, the youngest person there, um, and I just found him lovely and straightforward, and I didn't get any sense of eccentricity, other
Hmm.
than perhaps when I saw him and his wife together. But I didn't really get eccentricity. I just got joy and love, and they were very happy together, and so yeah, I didn't really get that. But then I didn't go to his house for dinner or any of that stuff.
The one story I heard was when he did one play and he decided to turn up to rehearsals in a full safari outfit. And it was nothing in the play, the character, nothing suggested that. And that was probably something that only somebody of his level could have kind of who could get away with. But
He did have an interesting dress sense, yes. So he would dress. Um, Yeah, I mean, he would turn up with the full cravat and the shirt and the double-breasted blazer and all of that. He did look like half the time he was going to just go and film a scene as Steed.
yes, yeah,
So I think he kind of attached some of his wardrobe to
mm,
that era in his life.
yeah.
You
And
never
having
caught him in a baggy t-shirt and a pair of jeans or anything like that.
no,
Never
didn't seem
saw that.
tight, did he? No.
No.
Having had such a long theatre career, did you ever develop any superstitions or certain things you had to do for shows, or were you not that type of actor?
Well, I know Colin had lucky underpants,
Oh.
and he showed them to me once, and I went, "Those are really old and truly disgusting." But so he had a pair of lucky underpants,
Mm,
and I used to take the little owl that Barbara had given with me
mm,
everywhere I went because it was so small, it was easy to travel with. So I'd take it to the theatre, and I'd think this was, make wise choices. If something goes wrong, you'll make a wise decision. And I just took that as a sort of lucky charm, so to speak. I mean, just the classic ones that you learn in school about not quoting the Scottish play and all of that. Which bizarrely, I don't know what one chooses to believe. It's up to you. But the first show I was mentioning to you that I did, Fiddler on the Roof, the lead actor, who went on to be a professional actor, um, who was playing, Tevye, he quoted the Scottish play, and everyone went, "Ah, get out, get outside, turn around 3 times, and asked to be let in and all that." And he was like, oh, I don't believe in any of that. And we were doing photographs. This was the dress rehearsal. So we were doing all the photographs for the production and stuff like that. So they were taking all the photographs, and you've got tradition and all of that. And there's a scene where he's pointing like this. He's literally pointing to his arm. Well, the next day during the show, he had an accident. He slipped on the backstage steps and broke the very arm that he was pointing to in the photograph straight after he'd quoted the Scottish play. So that made me, whether that was just some huge coincidence or not, that made me very superstitious about that. So I try to avoid people who do that, and I certainly don't do it myself.
Yeah, certainly give you pause, wouldn't it?
It
Yeah.
would, yeah, exactly. I was young enough to be influenced by that.
Hmm. Yeah. I just had a question from the audience. David just wanted to know what it's like to have action figures made of you, and whether or not you have to sign off because it's your likeness, or is it because it's a show they can do what they want, sort of thing.
It's kind of both. Um, at first, they contacted me and they said, we'd like to offer you, we're going to make these dolls of you, and we'd like you to have, 3 passes. So we'll send you 3 times, we'll send you the images, and 3 times you get to say, this, that, and the other. And so I was like, okay. And, you sign the contract. And I think the contract basically said something in the region of, if I sold 1 million dolls, I get £10. That was about the laughing amount I was going to make out of dolls. So I thought it was fun to have dolls of yourself. And the first image came back, and I was like, oh, okay. And I went, so could I have brown hair instead of black? And can I have hazel eyes instead of nearly black eyes? And could my eyes look more almond shape? And because they looked really long. I actually thought that with the dark hair, I was looking a bit oriental, like I was a completely different companion. And the thing was, they took almost no notice. They did one change that I asked for, and then they never asked me again. And every time I'd say, aren't you meant to ask me? They'd say, oh, sorry, we forgot. And I thought, well, in any other world, that's breach of contract, but not with the BBC.
No, their own kind of entity, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what can you do? I mean, what am I going to do? Sue the BBC over my doll? No. But so they make all the right noises, but then they didn't really
Right.
sort of do the stuff that you'd hope. And
Um,
yet there are these lovely cards out now for which I don't receive any money at all. And everyone will tell me what the make of them are. They're beautiful. They're beautifully done. And they sent me a copy and asked me if I'd like to have any suggestions on that. And I gave them a couple of suggestions, and they took those. And that was really lovely.
hmm.
Yes, the magic. Yeah, Magic the Gathering.
Oh,
So
there you go.
beautiful cards.
Hmm.
Um, and so I really like those. But no, there's so much stuff. Sometimes fans turn up with things to sign. I go, what is this? And I go, oh, I wish. And some of them I'd have happily bought myself, but you don't even know they exist.
Hmm. They don't send you them, or a copy?
No,
No. No.
no.
So when it came to deciding to leave Doctor Who, you were quite I mean, not insistent, but you were quite keen that Peri would die.
I wasn't keen that she would die.
Yeah.
I didn't say that that had to happen.
Yeah.
I just said I wanted something really dramatic.
Dramatic. Yeah.
So I wanted it to be something that warranted, because I thought that Peri as a character had had a pretty traumatic ride.
Mm.
She'd had, one of the roughest rides of companions during her time with her doctors. So I didn't want it to just be a weepy goodbye.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to just be, well, this has been great and I'm going to miss you and I'm going to go back home now. I didn't know what John Nathan Turner would do with that. And I think he might not have known what the writers were going to do. But he said, you tell me what you want. And basically I said, I want to go out with a bang. not a whimper. And
Mm.
that was predominantly it. And I think, wow, I got my wish. That was about as dramatic as you could imagine.
Yes, it's very, very good. I think, and but of course they retcon
I
the whole
know.
thing.
Ooh.
So that must be. When did you find out that they kind of went back on?
Oh, a long time afterwards. And then I was doing a Blu-ray commentary, and the one of the engineers said, "Did you ever see what had been done?" And I was like, "No." And they said, "Do you want to see it?" It must have been I was doing trial because they had
Mm.
the the um the picture that comes up of me and Brian, which looks like your worst Hallmark card you've ever seen. Um, and everything about that shows you that it was an afterthought.
Yes. Mm.
Um, because at no point were Brian and I playing that we were going to be having a relationship. That's not, yes, there's that scene where Peri, because she's kind and empathetic and thoughtful, is trying to explain to Johannes what love is,
Mm.
but that doesn't mean they're going to be in love.
Yep. Mm.
Um, so yeah, I thought it was a scary stretch that this kid, who would have been what if she'd been with the doctor for a year or two, 18, she'd have been 19, maybe 20, is now going to marry a warlord, and the doctor doesn't run off to check she's okay, and we're just going to put a little misty heart around that. I thought,
Mm.
is marrying a warlord worse than having your mind, transplanted? I mean, it's debatable, isn't
This
it?
is something interesting about the BBC. It might explain a lot of the BBC's action recently, actually, that they found that the less upsetting of the options. But it is an odd choice to go. But again, I suppose that kind of wanting to make the season a bit more less harsh, then I suppose that's
Yes.
kind of where it sort of where there was pressure from to John to kind of change it. I don't
Well,
know.
there was, all I do know is that on the night that the show went out, the BBC phone lines were jammed.
Mm.
So there were so many people called in, distressed. So, and all these things, obviously, notes get sent to director generals and notes get sent to producers to say what's happened. And that lots of people wrote in, my husband is distressed, or my son is distressed, or I'm distressed.
Mm.
Um, and so I think because there was reaction, there was this thing. Now, Colin always says it's because he asked, well, what really happened? But that question was always there.
Yeah.
And if they'd wanted to, they could have just said, well, the Matrix lied and she's fine. But she's fine and she married a warlord are two completely different things. She could have been, she's fine and she's back at home with her dog and she's studying her botany degree and we erased her mind. She's fine. There could have been a picture of me in my, university sweatshirt and my dog, or a cheerleader or anything. Marrying the warlord is completely different.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think it possibly was, backtracking on the drama, which was a
Mm.
bit disappointing from
Oh
my
yeah.
perspective. But I
Yeah.
also get it because a lot of fans will say to me, I still feel traumatized. I can still feel the trauma that I felt when I watched that.
Well, it is a very disturbing, um,
Yeah.
thing to happen, and yeah, I can understand why people were
Yeah,
upset by it.
absolutely.
It's still,
And I'm just
still
seeing
now.
it from my perspective as an actor enjoying the role,
Mm.
as opposed to someone who is, engrossed in the story and caring about those people. And so, in that way, it's a terrible thing to happen to an innocent teenage kid who's done nothing but try to make things better.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's terrible, but I loved it.
yeah, very gutsy. Yeah, yeah. So after you left Doctor Who, you did do one of my favorite shows, Blackadder. You did Blackadder Christmas Carol,
Yes.
with Tony Robinson, Rowan Atkinson. What was that like to be involved with that?
Oh, that was an absolute dream. And what a dream show. What a dream team. Um, and Yeah, I mean, I know it wasn't a huge part, but I think I made it memorable.
Oh, yes, very memorable. Yes, yeah.
And I really, really wanted the part. And I remember I was working in not Leicester, was it? Oh, for goodness sake, Nicola, Liverpool, Chester. I was working in Chester at the time. And so I had to travel down by train and do the audition at the BBC and then go back up for the show that night. And I think I definitely got that job based on laughter, not on the laugh that I did for the thing, because that was created later. But they just said to me, "Oh, um, we're thinking she might be, a little bit eccentric and have some crazy laugh or something." And I just went straight back and I went, "I collect laughs." And they just went, "Really?" And I went, "Yeah, okay. So here's the woman on the train coming down. Here's Honey from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf before she gets too pissed. This is Honey when she's very, very drunk." And I went through all the laughs because I was doing laughs in the show, and I listened to people. And if you hear a really wild, eccentric laugh, part of me kind of loves taking hold of that, because you're going, that's a real laugh. That's a real person in a real situation. It's not a manufactured, I'm trying to be a comedy, whatever. It's a real laugh. And I just kind of collect that and I keep it for when I need to find the right laugh
Mm.
for a character. Sometimes it's not that I'll remember them all, because I can't remember what those other ones were now. But if it's just fresh in my mind, I've just heard something. And I had on the train down, there was this woman just killing herself laughing about something on the train down. But it was a very hysterical, snorty, giggly laugh. And so I think me doing that was what got me the role. And then obviously they were very thrilled with the laugh I came up with for Millicent, that as a result, there were extra lines written. So they said, if she's coming and this is the sound that Blackadder is expecting, there should be like something you do. And Tony Robinson came up with I think, maybe we'd need to like tie everything down. And so then Rowan Atkinson said, yes, I think actually something like secure the ornaments, Baldrick, because they know she's going to laugh and everything's going to vibrate. you know. So it was great fun, absolutely great fun doing that.
And you had a live audience to bounce off, didn't you, on that one?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did. Although I'm not sure bounce off is really the way it is. It's just to terrify you, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, but the thing is that you're not. So if you are the camera, the live audience is here.
Mm.
So it's difficult because you have to play your stuff to the camera, but you want to get the laughs from the audience. So you're kind of playing both as best you can, really. But it's lovely to have a live audience there. So none of that. When people will say, "Oh, it's canned laughter," and you go, "No, not a single word."
No.
But you do get funny ones where sometimes then you'll get an extra big laugh or something. You think, "Well, that's not that funny," but that's because something had happened before.
Yeah. Mm.
Something had gone wrong with that particular word or shot or something, and when they finally get it, the audience laugh because it's the relief that they got it.
Mm.
So you'll get odd laughs that you're going, "Oh, that doesn't seem quite right." But it was never, it was never faked or increased or added to or anything like that. It's just what you got is what you got.
And you say you put the characters' laughs in post-production just to give it a bit more of a
No, everything was
no,
live,
all life,
absolutely
all life.
live. So I had to start from the other side of the studio, walking all the way around. How long can I keep that laugh going? How big is my breath? Can I keep it going, 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 and then walk in the door and finish it? That was 3 years of drama school. Knowing how to have that lung capacity to bring that laugh all the way around the actual live audience and into the entrance. So no, nothing was post-production. Everything was just that's it.
And you did return to Doctor Who for Dimensions in Time. The very, I mean, nowadays you wouldn't have anything that elaborate for children needed comic relief. So at the time, I don't think
No.
we appreciated the scale of it. But
Well, I think in a weird way, it actually shows how loved Doctor Who was then, because they really put a lot of money into the children in need thing. I mean, a huge amount. We've got all the EastEnders actors. You've got 3D for the first time, and all the sets and the yeah. I mean that that felt good because you felt like, oh, okay, the BBC's actually showing Doctor Who some love again. That felt really nice.
it's a shame that it can never be officially released, I think, because of, contracts are very different with charities. But would you quite like it to be, from your point of view, would you like people to be able to see it in a
I
in a
don't
physical
see
way?
why it couldn't be on YouTube
Oh,
somewhere.
oh, it is. It
You know,
is.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I just don't see why, since it is, the BBC couldn't
Mm.
officially release it and just stick it there with all the other stuff on iPlayer or on a Blu-ray or something, you know.
You think it makes some money for charity, or
Yeah,
it's a nice bit of
absolutely.
profit, And
Just do it that every time it's played, it's making money for children in need.
mm,
Surely that would be a
yeah.
logical thing to do.
And I think it's a very fun story as well, and you get
Exactly.
some more time with Peter, of course, and uh,
Yeah, it's fun and it's silly and and that's exactly what children in need should be.
mm.
But it was nice that, so many people were involved.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's wonderful, wonderful. Collaboration in that respect. And of course, you do return in Tales of the TARDIS with
Yes,
Colin, so I imagine that must have been quite a joy to do.
that was extraordinary. It was incredibly emotional.
Mm.
I don't think either Colin and I were quite prepared for how emotional we would feel and how emotionally we would react when we went on set. Um, you know, Russell T Davis was there, everyone was there, Phil Collinson, and they all just, they just stood up. I get emotional saying it. They just stood up and applauded us. And I was like, stop, they've done my makeup. Because it was just like, and it was all, beautiful speech given. And, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And yes, we know that's true, but for it to be recognized by them was just such an honor. They didn't need to do that. They didn't have to do that. But for them to do that was beautiful. And Russell took us out for dinner the night before. And it was lovely. It was really, really lovely and lovely for Colin and I. And I wish we could have had more than a day. I wish we could have had 10 stories, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But very, very grateful for what we had.
Mm.
And how wonderful to be in that little TARDIS.
Yes. Mm.
That little TARDIS was just great because, of course, I looked around it with Colin and I went, now what's this bit? The bit that we ended up in, because they wanted to do that long pull-out shot for us at the end, which was quite an adventurous shot to do, where we're both kind of flying the TARDIS together. And I thought, who's, I can see that's this TARDIS, that's this, what is this? And of course, it was Shooty's TARDIS, but I didn't know that then because we hadn't seen it yet. And then they took us onto the set to show us the TARDIS. I mean, mind blowing. The TARDIS was like the size of our whole studio when we were filming.
Yeah.
So extraordinary, really, a lot of love and really beautiful to have been invited to do that.
Mm. We had a question from Grego. Can you tell us about one of your favorite authors of fiction who is also a friend of yours?
Do I know anyone who writes fiction? Are they cryptic or do they want me to say anyone? Is this a
Um,
cryptic question?
well, I think that
Or
the hope.
is this somebody that I might know quite well called Nev Fountain? Yes. Um, well, the man's a comedy genius, isn't he?
Mm,
And science fiction genius. I mean, all of his Big Finish stories are just oh, he gets you. He always has something different. He's a nightmare to live with because he's mad, completely mad. But as far as writing goes, I suppose I can put up with the madness because his writing's so good. Um, yeah, I mean, he's got an extraordinary brain, an extraordinary mind, and yeah, I feel really privileged in terms of Big Finish that, some of my favorite stories have been written by him. Um, and uh, and sometimes I've sworn at him because he'll use every possible thing he can think of, to twist the story and upset me and make it hell. But it's brilliant because he takes me as an actor when I'm reading it and the audience with you on an incredible roller coaster every time you're in a Nev Fountain story.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I love reading his stuff and I love giving him notes. That's my job. I'll give him notes. So that's ridiculous. That would never happen. That's my favorite note.
Matt has asked, what's it like to revisit Doctor Who for the Blu-ray box sets? Because you get, of course, to watch other, incarnations of the show. So I suppose that's quite interesting in itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to some. I love doing the on the sofa, and I love doing the box sets when that you're doing the documentaries. Like it was a great privilege to be allowed to do the Dursley documentary recently, and others that I cannot speak of because some of them aren't out.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd love to go back and do another one of those dinners because I think that was great fun at the Ivy.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yes. Somebody
yeah,
mentioned that just now. Yes.
that was great fun.
Jason mentioned that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's all about who they match up and who they ask.
Hmm.
But I thoroughly enjoy doing all the Blu-ray stuff. And I think it's lovely because when they first said, "Oh, we're going to be doing Doctor Who Blu-rays," I thought, "What's the point?" I thought, okay, somebody will want the Blu-ray who's also got the video. But I was like, I hadn't because I'm not head of marketing at the BBC. I hadn't thought about all the wonderful things they could add to it to make it incredible value to actually buy these Blu-rays because otherwise, why would you without all the extras? That was my thinking. But the extras that they've come up with have been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and slightly torturous when they made us do the escape room.
Escape room. Yeah.
Yes, that's
That's something I would
that's
never like to do in real life. I wouldn't like. No.
no. I did one with my youngest stepson, and I definitely drew the short straw because I got the 8-year-olds. I should have gone with the teenagers. That would have been better, I think. But there we go. Yeah, escape rooms not my thing. But there we go. Yeah.
And when you do the behind the sofa episodes, do they just show you clips of the episodes, or was it
Yeah, it's
just
a
yeah,
weird one because obviously they can't show us the whole story because
you
we'd be
or
there for
or
three
to that?
days or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So they edit it down and try and make it succinct. But you are left with that thing of going, if I say this as a criticism that I don't understand what this character's doing, is that because they've cut it down? So in a way, I'm always a bit reticent to be critical because I don't know whether that's because I haven't seen the whole thing.
Mm,
I mean, I
yeah.
can laugh my head off at the costumes. I think that's perfectly free for all for everyone, isn't it?
Mm.
And the crazy situations that people find themselves in and the sort of very Blue Peter-esque props where you think, oh, yes, I can see that egg carton and I can see that. Where you've got those things. And I think those are definitely up for laughter and ridicule. But I sort of, it's hard to pull the story apart if you're not watching the full story. And they don't want us to watch the full story before we come. So that seems a little bit, but it's a great fun thing to do.
Mm. Jason's mentioned about working with Toby Haddock.
Oh yes, Toby Haydock.
Haddock, yeah.
Yes. Oh, he's great. He's lovely. And he's very good at his job. Very good at, um, doing the interviews and getting the information out of you. So I love working with him. Yes,
Mm.
we love Toby.
Elena's asked, what's your favorite role outside of Doctor Who?
Oh, okay. My favorite role that I ever played was I played Zelda Fitzgerald in a play, a three-hander called Running with the Bulls, and it was I played Zelda Fitzgerald with Zelda Fitzgerald, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Ernest Hemingway as the characters. So that was definitely, and that was a kind of dream come true because I love F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I've sort of not only have I read all his works, but I've read all those biographies and things. Marnie's just remaking the sofa right now. If you can hear a little scratching. What do you want, darling? Oh, look.
No.
Hello, everyone. Oh, wriggle, wriggle.
Well, we mustn't keep you too much
Oh,
longer
no, don't
for
worry. No, no, not at
your
all. It's
attention.
fine. You go,
Um,
sweetheart.
uh,
You
you,
settle. Good
you
girl.
did do a play, People's Politics, and you played, was it 20 characters in that? That must have been
Oh, I lost
quite
track. How many
challenging.
was it? 2017, 33. I can't remember. Um, and yes, I played a lot of real life people. I played Margaret Thatcher. I played Dolly Parton. I played oh God, what was her name? Paula, Liza. Oh, I can't remember now. I've got Lindsay DePaul. I played I played oh God, I can't remember them all now. But anyway, I played lots of people, and yeah, that was great fun. It was a real sort of lots of very quick changes, tiny, little costume changes, and I got to play all these different characters. And yeah, sadly, like with a lot of theatre, same with the Zelda Fitzgerald, it wasn't recorded, and it's theatre, and it's gone when you finished. So yeah, that would have been lovely if there'd been a recording of those things.
Well, I suppose now it's very common, isn't it, to have theatre with recordings and
Yeah, but in those
um,
days it wasn't, and
yeah.
this was the 80s.
Mm.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the joys about theatre is you can always kind of tailor performances, try new things, always evolving. Whereas
Mm.
if it's on film, that's it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
is that part of what you enjoy about the theatre is that you can always kind of
Oh, yeah.
modify it?
I love people say to me, "How on earth do you do a year in a show?" I go, "Well, because it's different every night.
Yeah. Mm,
It's different depending on the audience feedback, because that changes things too.
mm,
Um, it's different according to just you notice your leading man just says something slightly different, which makes you say something slightly different, which makes you react slightly different, and it's a different show. And when I was doing the thriller Killing Jessica, because it was a play within a play within a play, my sorry, can I just do one thing? Sorry, I'll be right back.
yeah.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. It's just I think Marnie needs a drink. So there you go, sweetheart. Good girl. Now the sound of lapping. There we go. Because we're sitting in the sitting room, so she hasn't got her normal bowl next to her. Good girl. Sorry, it's a long drink. Can you hear her lapping?
I can't. I don't know if it'll come out on the recording, but no, I
There
can't
we
hear it.
go. Sorry about this, folks. Dogs first, of course.
Oh, absolutely, I quite agree.
She's very thirsty. She's still drinking. Oh my goodness, Marnie. Good girl. Yes. Oh, good girl. Right. Sorry. So, yes, so with this thriller, which was a play within a play within a play, my boyfriend and I on stage, um, it all kind of led to this line where the inspector's asking me a question, and I then say that I realized that my boyfriend, because I woke up in the middle of the night and he wasn't there. Now, that line could mean that my boyfriend is the murderer, or if I say it in a particular way, it means that I'm the murderer, but I'm now making my boyfriend look like the guilty party. Depending upon how I say that line, it's one or the other. And because neither of those things were true, because we were both acting to entrap the murderer, basically we could play the whole play any way we wanted. So we used to be in the wings every night and we toss a coin and we go heads or tails. And I'd say heads and he'd go heads. And I'd go, I'm the murderer. And we'd play the whole play. So every line, every thought that we do, I would be leading to the fact that I would be dumping on my boyfriend and I would be doing shock that I suddenly realized it was my boyfriend who was missing in the middle of the night. And and then another night he'd be, you know, the real murderer. And then it would be a terrible shock because I realized that maybe my boyfriend is the murderer. And it would be so I could play the whole thing completely differently. And we were lucky that in that play we could do that. So it kept us on our toes every night. We would just like, switch around. Um, but that's a sort of exaggerated version of what you can do in theatre. And if you're really playing in the moment, it's always just that little bit different. And that's the magic of it. And that's the magic of going to see a live show.
And I was I saw Simon Callow doing Being Shakespeare, his one man performance of Shakespeare's life, and there was a talk afterwards, and and he had that very question of how do you keep doing it all the time, and he was saying what you were saying about tinkering with it as he went, but also that he said he never gets it right. So there's always
Mm,
a sense of self-improvement as well as
yes,
as making some little changes. So.
exactly.
And I was also wondering, is there any skill that you've had to learn for any play, TV, etc., that you've actually used in your own life or somehow been beneficial to you? So something you've had to learn, or maybe a fear you've had to overcome, or anything in that area?
Well, I couldn't swim before Doctor Who.
Oh, right.
So John Nathan Turner said to me, and this is when I got the job, and he'd offered it to me the day that I'd gone back. And then he said, so Nicola, we're going to start, because I hadn't read the script at that point. They'd given me a couple of scenes to read from Planet of Fire, but they also had a like audition script. And he said, do you swim? And I thought, oh no, because it's my least favorite thing in the world, getting in the water. And I just went, why? And he went, well, in one of your early scenes, you have to drown. And I just thought, oh my goodness, if I say I can't swim, I could lose this job right now. So I just went, well, funnily enough, drowning is my speciality. So John just thought I was being funny and I was just telling him the truth. So once I got the part, I had to go and have swimming lessons.
Well, very useful skill
Yes.
to acquire, isn't it? So.
Yes, I found better to be safe. I mean, I was just like, I was a mess in the water. I was just awful. I was that one person who didn't even float if they wore a ring, wearing one of those swimming. I just go crash into the wave. I was terrible. I hated it. I felt I was designed for lying on the beach or being on a boat, but not being in the water. So yeah, so I did learn. I learned how to swim for Doctor Who.
I'm the opposite. If you get me in a pool, it's difficult to get me out. But well, I think it's quite a lovely point to end it, Nicola. Thanks very much for spending so much time talking with me.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
is there any final comments you'd like to make? Anything that we haven't covered in Doctor Who, or any comments about it, or any message to fans you want to?
No, thank you.
Yeah,
I've been reading a lot of your messages as they come up, and it's lovely that you're here, and it's just a nice way for us to sort of join together. Um, and you don't have to leave your lovely warm homes or get on a train that breaks down or stuck in traffic. So this has been really lovely, and thank you so much for joining in and sending your questions. And if you've got Christmas cards or whatever it is, I have no idea yet what anyone might have asked for. I look forward to fulfilling your orders, as they say.
Well, we're still taking orders
Oh,
for the
right, cool.
autographs and birthday cards, but we haven't added Christmas cards. So where that's
Oh,
something that
right, yeah, cool.
I can talk to Tim about, and
Yeah.
that might be a nice little thing to
I think
But
so, since Christmas is coming. I just think it might be nice, but
good thing for
up
for
to
fans.
people.
And I suppose just to finish off, that is it quite strange that a show you did back in 80 in the mid 80s, people are still so enthusiastic, and it's become such this phenomenon.
It's incredible, really. It's awesome. It's amazing. I feel so blessed and so lucky. I mean, I'm looking at my sort of bookshelves behind there, and I've got this big TARDIS, wooden TARDIS that Colin gave me. Um, and there's a sort of you wouldn't know that was an actor's home. I know lots of people put all their posters up and stuff, and I don't do that. But there's little tiny bits. There's a spaceship and a rock from Star Trek and a rock from Lanzarote and little bits. It's there isn't a day in my life from the point that I got this role that Doctor Who hasn't touched my life. I receive incredible messages from people, and I just feel, you know, blessed in every way that I get to help and meet so many lovely people. I recently got a message from someone who said that they felt they'd passed their GCSEs thanks to me.
Oh,
And I was like, well, how on earth could I have had any influence on your GCSEs? And then I discovered that way, way back years ago, I gave them a teddy bear, because I do give away bears and things like that, because I get given a lot. So I bring them in, they all come a part of my life, they all get to be on the bed, they all have some fun, and then I share them back out again. So I'd given this teddy bear um, to a young girl, and she had anxiety, and she'd taken this bear with her, and she was allowed to have a bear to take her exams because she had anxiety, and her bear kept her stable. And I was like, wow, that's
oh, that's
incredible.
yeah,
Just
that's wonderful, isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's really lovely. And I know that a lot of people, for many, many, many years, I've done conventions where people have come up and said, Doctor Who saved my life. And at first, when I heard people saying that, I used to think, oh dear, there's so many melodramatic people about. And then I realized absolutely this was true. I heard it so many times. And I understand that, it is a show with magic powers. And I know that those people on the outside, the people who want to cancel the show, the people who don't understand that, because that sounds, oh, what a weird bunch of people. But it's true, because I've seen it and I know it. Um, so, yeah, um,
Well,
what we're doing is another bit of magic today.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, I feel the same. When you're in a bad place, you turn to things that comfort you, and you
yeah,
watch Doctor Who, whatever it
yeah,
might be, and
which takes you out of this world where there are troubles and pains and puts you in another world where you have a hero and someone from Earth mostly
yeah,
who are going to right some wrongs.
yeah.
And it kind of just restores a moment of faith, a little bit of, um, something life affirming and adventure, takes your mind off things. And also, there's just so much to learn about Doctor Who. So you can absorb yourself into it. Um, it's an incredible show. And I hope it never, ever, ever ends, because it only needs to end when imagination ends,
Well, yeah, yes, I think
which is never,
it's always
you know.
going to be there, isn't it? And I think, as you say, you don't go into acting thinking of the difference it can make in people's lives, but that must be perhaps one of the best and the most surprising aspects of being an actor.
Yeah, I mean, there are life-changing shows out there. There are life-changing films, that people make, and it does make people think. And I remember seeing Orphans in the West End, and I was so moved by that. So moved. It did make me go and do things that I would not have done otherwise. Um, and I think sometimes you can come across those shows that just make you go, I have to do this, because, I'm hearing the message of this show. And I think, Doctor Who is one of those shows too. I think, why is it that so many people who were huge fans of Doctor Who went on to become great imaginative writers, showrunners of the show, because it is an incredible world to be in.
Yes, it inspires future generations but David Tennant got into acting partly because
Yeah,
of Doctor Who
absolutely.
and all the wonderful things that Stephen Moffat and Russ T Davies and the other writers have written outside of Doctor Who.
Yes,
Would we necessarily have them without that show? So it kind of
exactly.
sort of this wonderful kind of
Exactly.
self-perpetuating element to
And
it.
for me, it was the most imaginative show on television at the time when I was growing up. And I think that there's no reason why it can't sort of keep that place. Admittedly, we've got a much broader spectrum of shows to watch, and there are a lot of fantastic shows with huge budgets, but there's no reason why, Doctor Who is special and it can keep that place.
Mm. And hopefully it'll come. Well, we know it's coming back, so it's going to be around for a long time. But just a final question that comes to me:
Mm.
if you were going to do come into Doctor Who now as Peri, what would you like her to be? Would it be very different from what you did, or the kind of stories or the things you'd like to have been involved with?
I'd like her to be as she was sort of in that DVD extra where you saw her step out of the TARDIS and visit Uranus's grave,
Mm,
you know, the cloak, you'd have to bring the journey with you. This is a woman who has been a warrior and has brought peace to a warring planet. So she knows she was always a negotiator. She was always how do I make this better? But to be someone who is there to, you know, create peace. I'd always had my secret hope that the Doctor would have nowhere else to regenerate to but into older Peri, and that, old Peri could become. So I felt like, oh no, Billy Piper's just stolen my idea.
mm, yeah.
It's like, that's great. That should have been me.
So there's always
But
possibilities.
yeah, but I
Mm,
would like her to come back as someone strong and wise and carrying that majesty, wisdom, and empathy,
mm,
because she's had a lot of loss in her life.
yeah.
So I think, anything that involves that, that would be good.
Mm. Well, let's hope they do bring you back at some point. There's endless
Who
possibilities
knows?
with sci-fi, so I think that'd
Yeah,
be very fun to see.
exactly. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Philip. This has been really lovely. Really
Yeah.
lovely.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it, and yeah, it's been lovely to speak this evening. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Mwah. Thank you. I'm sure we may do this again. Who knows?
I'd be open to it.
Okay. Thank you
Okay.
very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, Nicola.
Bye.
Bye.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
So
take care.
take care.
Bye.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.